You all have written your roll numbers?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
good. Let's begin today's class. You remember what is schedule for the day?
So we have to discuss about the financial statements.
Good. We have to discuss about financial statement analysis. Now that we have completed our discussion on preparation of financial statements, we will be now interpreting those financial statements. Whatever we have compiled, we will see about the financial health of a company. So far, what you did was part of financial accounting. Now you are starting management accounting. You have now fairly good idea about accounting cycle. That is, you studied the conventions which are to be followed while recording business transactions. Then the basis of recording transactions like debit and credit were discussed, either kind of accounts or equation. After having understood that a transaction took place, you knew which is to be debited, which is to be credited, and accordingly you did. One head was debited, several were credited, or several were credited, one or more were debited in such a way the total of debit and credit was same. After recording the transaction in a book called journal, you classified that in a book known as ledger. As many ledgers accounts were prepared as there were heads of account. One for salary, one for capital, one for this, one for that. As many ledger accounts you compiled. Next, you balanced those ledger accounts. In each balance, barring very few, you had one or the other balance, either a debit balance or a credit balance. You transferred those balances to a statement which you called as trial balance. When both sides were equal, you were mathematically sure that there is no error. Then from that, you prepared financial statements, that is profit and loss account and balance sheet. Then when both sides were equal, you made further adjustments like you passed adjustment entries, passed closing entries, and then transferred them to profit loss account and balance sheet. And then finally balance sheet was prepared. With these balances, next year opening balances will be created. You will have opening balances in the next accounting year. So some exercises, of course, at a very modest level, very small level were done. A detailed exercise was also shared with you, wherein about 30 transactions were there, and you were expected to have gone through them. So some of you sought some clarifications also, which I provided. So we had transactions, we had, you know, we reached up to the state of balance sheet. We passed adjustment entries, and then next year opening entries will be passed. Up to this stage, we have done. In addition to that, some idea was given to you about the financial statements, published financial statements. How do they look like? Because not many were ready before the discussion, so it was not discussed in as much details as should have been. And one small case, one caselet and one case was also discussed, just to illustrate the concepts in accounting. So this is how we have reached up to this stage. So I'll take up the next part, but before I do that, let me hear from you if you wish to have any clarification up to whatever has been discussed up till this day.
Sir, Sachin Tendulkar tax
Good,
invasion.
fine, I'll explain. I asked you two questions yesterday. One was about the Reliance and the other was about Sachin Tendulkar. I received about 3-4 correct answers, which I returned to them, putting a tick mark of yes, whether their answer was correct. Just one second. One second. All right, so I received correct answers from two, three of you. I think one was from Kratika, am I right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you explain what was the situation of starting with Sachin Tendulkar.
So Sachin Tendulkar, sir, actually, he's a famous cricketer. So he received lots of advertisement from foreign companies as well as from domestic companies. So on regarding this, he was implemented a lot of taxes. So to avail, like he was not in a state of availing deductions. So in this case, he changed his profession from a cricketer as an actor to avail the deductions. So it was like a tax planning from his side, but it was illegal because he was not an actor; he's a cricketer.
Okay, okay. Have you understood? What Kratika has said is correct. Let me just elaborate. Taxes are charged or levied on a person depending on his or her status. I am an individual, I am receiving income from salary. So first I'll be considered as individual. That is, this is my status. Then head of income. My head of income would be salaries. Similarly, there's a doctor practicing. So he will be considered as an individual, then income from profession. Correct? It is a company. So it will not be individual, it will be corporate house, and rate of taxes accordingly will be applicable. So depending on the source of income, category of income, and the status of an individual, the tax rates are charged. So he was finding paying more taxes as cricketer, and he found less taxes, less tax liability if he declares himself not as a cricketer but as not as a sports person but as an actor, because the income tax applicable to actor is lesser than the income tax applicable to a sportsman, and then income from other sources like endorsement, etc., etc. So this is what, by doing so, he saved taxes. So it is debatable point whether he did what he did was illegal or unethical, or he was legally right but ethically wrong, or ethically also he was right. I have no comments to offer. It is up to you. This something does not require any interference of accounting. So
So
you may,
there were a lot of comments regarding the same, and they call this part unethical.
so it is no, that's what I'm saying, something which does not require any input from accounting as such. I may perhaps not be speaking on that. You are all, you have reached this stage of your life that you can jolly well decide what is unethical, what is ethical, what is moral, what is legal, what is illegal. This all you can decide. So it is up to you to take a call whether ethical or unethical. So I'm leaving this discussion for you to finally take a call. If you are in his position, what would you have done? Actor or cricketer?
Sir, maybe actor.
Sir, actor.
Actor.
Sir, actor.
So you will
So
be really acting.
sir,
Even
to avail benefits like to
Just to
avail
save taxes.
to pay less tax, everyone will going to change the profession in whichever profession he or she is.
okay. Even if you are not into that profession.
Indeed, sir.
Okay, okay, fine. It is your call. I have nothing to say. Okay, next comes the issue of reliance. Okay. Again, two, three people have correctly answered, including Kratika. But now let me hear from someone else who gave the correct answer. Did I place a tick mark to someone of you?
Yes, sir.
Whom? About Tushar.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Tushar, explain. What was it?
Sir, I only remember that you said that because of the tax saving, he has to change his profession from
No, no, I'm
cricketer
not.
to
I'm not
actor.
talking. No, no. The matter of Sachin Tendulkar is resolved. I am talking
Yes,
about
sir.
the reliance, to whom Geo, to whom I have uh, replied back that his or her answer was correct. I don't remember that. You may be
Oh,
remembering who, in whose case I wrote that your answer was correct.
okay, sir. Sir, I thought only of Sachin. Sorry, sir.
No, no, okay, no, no, no. Anyone about whom I wrote that his answer was correct is present here?
Sir, I am present here.
Oh, again, Kratika. No one else? Okay. Then to somebody I wrote the answer was partially correct.
Yes, sir, that was me.
Okay, excellent.
Sir, also me, sir.
Okay, anyone, Arma, you can fastest finger first.
Yes,
Arma, batao.
actually, what I said was that Reliance didn't sell its device, but instead gave it on deposit was because it was using that money as an investment for itself.
Okay, next one, who was he? जिसको मैंने लिखा partially correct, कौन है वो?
Sir, Omar Moin, sir.
हाँ, उमर बताओ, तुम बताओ उमर.
Sir, I said that basically they took loan on zero interest, and
Good.
so that they
Yes.
can invest and so that they can invest.
So have you understood now? Still it is partially correct. The answer
Yes,
was
sir.
expected on the lines of accounting language. Can somebody still elaborate or still extend the argument that Umar has conveyed, or Kratika also has said the same thing?
No, sir. I have my question. My answer was different. I concluded 2 points regarding the marketing aspect and the accounting aspect. Should I go for the both, or should I only
No,
go for the accounting?
just confine your discussion to accounting only. There are good teachers in marketing. They will take care of these things.
So, like when Geo was launched, it was new in the market. So, a lot of money was invested in bringing up the market, in bringing up the business. So, in order to maintain the equilibrium, Mukesh Ambani offered the devices on security rather than he sold them. So, this security, Mukesh Ambani showed as a liability, as a loan in his balance sheet, which in turn helped in deduction of the taxes.
Okay.
So, in a nutshell, it is a win-win situation for the Mukesh Ambani.
Okay, fine. It's more or less correct. In accounting language, we could have said now, as no answers are coming in accounting language, I can tell that if a transaction is called as sales, if a transaction is classified as sales, it falls into the category of revenue. Revenue increases your capital, expenses remaining same or different, your profit is calculated, and when you reach a figure of profit, it is subject to tax. You have understood? Have you
Yes,
understood this part?
Yes, sir.
Now, if there is no revenue, same money is taken in the name of some other head, like Reliance Jio took it in the name of security deposit. It was not a revenue, it was a loan. And on loan, either you pay interest or you don't pay, it depends between giver and receiver, but certainly it will not attract any tax liability. Are you clear?
Yes, sir.
So
Yes,
what
sir.
now it can be brought into the marketing strategy in a sense when there is a stiff competition, which you call as cutthroat competition between two or more players. So normally they offer discount in terms of pricing, and that affects their profitability. So they operate at times at 1% or 2% margin. So in the process, their profitability is affected adversely. Here, by saving 30% taxes, in those days, I don't remember what was the percentage, could be 33 or so. They saved 33% taxes, realized the same money which others would have realized. You receive 1,000 rupees either by way of sales or by way of loan. You have got 1,000 rupees in your kitty. You make use of those 1,000 rupees in any way you like. So they might have earned interest on the money that they took from people, but they did not pay any interest to them from whom they took as loan or as a security. So in the process, they would have made at least 6-7%. So 6-7% they are making on investment that they have received by way of loan, and they are saving it taxes. Had it been income, they would have paid more taxes. So they have saved on taxes also. In just one shot, they have beaten their competitors by taking the advantage of accounting mechanism. In whose time period was it done? Who was this financial consultant or finance CFO of Reliance, it was Urjit Patel, who was later on designated as
RBI Governor of
RBI
Governor
Governor.
of
Yes.
RBI.
after Raghuram.
Raghuram Rajan.
Raghuram Rajan.
After
Rajan.
Raghuram Rajan, this Urjit Patel took
Raghuram
over.
Rajan.
Raghuram Rajan. After that, he also quit this Urjit Patel. So it was his, decision, or his rather strategy, that resulted into such things. So in one go, he made so much of money. So it could be, there is no issue of calling it ethical or unethical. So what I expect, this should be our level of understanding. This we should see why people are, taking such decisions. Not once again, I am saying what is accounting, define, differentiate, history. These are all things that books can tell you. But this you can learn only when the discussion took place amongst you, or with my presence or without my presence. This should be the real way of taking forward. Okay. Anything else? All right. Before I proceed, now each one of you can write your cumulative attendance. Roll number like 101, 13, 102, 65,
Sir, are we supposed to
103.
include today's class as well?
No, not today's. Week's attendance means only up to 5th.
Okay.
Sir, we have to write this week's attendance only, or the all total
क्यूमुलेटिव एज
attendance.
ऑन डेट. देखो जीशान, थोड़ा सा सवाल तो बहुत अच्छा तुम करना चाहिए हमेशा, चाहे कोई भी बात हो, लेकिन देखो मैसेज भी पढ़ा करो. मैंने ग्रुप में नहीं, व्हाट्सएप, वंस अगेन सॉरी, वो था गूगल क्लासरूम में क्या पोस्ट किया था. गूगल क्लासरूम में ये पोस्ट किया था कि क्यूमुलेटिव एज ऑन वीक 5 तो गुजर गया ना, तो आपने सैटरडे तक जितनी की हैं, डे 1 से लेकर के डे 20, कौन था वो, डे 22 था ना आपको सैटरडे.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Day 22.
22 तक की आप क्यूमुलेटिव लिख दीजिए. All right, if you have finished, let me take up the class.
Sir, I have a doubt regarding Venus Music Corner.
बताइए जरूर
Sir,
बताइए.
supplies को what will we consider supplies as an expense or asset?
Good that you reminded. The answers of some of you differed with others. In some cases it was 4030, in some cases it was lesser than that, perhaps more. I don't remember, but anyway the correct answer was 4030, because supplies people have considered as an asset. Supplies refer to the purchases that you make, goods that you buy. So supply should have been part of profit and loss account, not the balance sheet. Is this clear now, Umar?
Okay, sir. Yes.
Okay. Now with this question, what observation do you made here? Those who considered supplies as asset, they also got their balance sheet both side equal, and those who considered supplies as expenses, their balance sheet was also tallied. So what lessons do you draw from this scenario?
So not only this, sir, it means that even if the balance sheet is being balanced, it does not mean that you have
Correct.
made no mistake. So
Correct.
furthermore, not only expense, if I may add,
Sure.
with your permission.
Sir, will it be
Sir, I
error
also
of comparison?
Anam, just let him complete. Adil.
So we also saw that even if drawings were not included in the equity but included in the assets, even then the balance sheet would have been matched.
Okay.
So
Any other?
if
Good.
further-
Go ahead. Any other observation? Yes. Any other observation?
Sir, again, we can say that if the balance sheet is balanced, then it really doesn't mean that your accounts have been tallied properly. It is possible that we are just showing the mathematical accuracy of the financial statements, but we are ignoring the various accounting conventions. So, therefore, again, adjustment entries would have been made even if we are taking supplies as an asset.
Now you may think of ways and means, or think of Just one second. Think of some other examples. Two examples you have seen here. One, that expenses were treated as asset and our balance sheet was tallied. Drawing were considered as, what did you say, Adil?
Sir, assets.
Drawing were considered as an asset, still balance sheet was equal. Think of more such ways wherein you make a mistake, you make a mistake and still you get both sides of your balance sheet equal. So
Sir,
which
if the profit is considered as reserves and surplus, even then the balance sheet would be equal.
no, I was about to ask a question. My question was, in such a situation, that situation means you have innocently, not deliberately, committed a mistake, and still your balance sheet, both sides were equal. Which error would this be called?
So error of compensation, because one eventually we are getting the
Any other answer? Any other
equal
answer?
balance.
Okay,
The compensation would need two errors. This would be error of accounting convention.
it would be error of accounting convention. Accounting convention error तो अच्छा और बताइए चलिए अभी रुक जाइए और
Error
बताइए
of principle, sir.
एरर ऑफ प्रिंसिपल और बताइए चार एरर मैंने बताई थी एक एक करके आप बता देंगे एक तो आंसर करेक्ट होगा ही होगा चलिए ये मान के चलिए कि इसके बाद से नेगेटिव मार्किंग शुरू हो गई अब बताइए
Sir, error of principle because we are recording something as something else.
okay error of principle is the correct answer because you are violating accounting convention something that you should regard as asset you are regarding as okay fine let me ask another question you consider an asset as a liability will your balance sheet be equal
No, sir. In that case, the credit and debit do not come out to be equal. No?
okay
Sir, it is possible. We saw it, right?
it is possible Arma is it possible that you consider your uh, asset as a liability and still your balance sheet will match
sir, I think it is possible, but I need some time to think about it.
okay you need no issue I'm flagging all these issues so that you keep on thinking because these are the questions that will be asked in your test in case it goes as MCQ so if I say in case you treat an asset as a liability and suppose I say that your balance sheet will still match but the probability of committing such mistake is 1 out of 1000 a very simple example could be your debtors were 10,000 you considered them as creditors your creditors were also 10,000 but you considered them as debtors so will it mathematically affect the balance sheet
No, sir, it won't.
but
No, sir.
there will be an error isn't it because
Yes,
you are
sir.
entering this data in an MS let us assume because you have not yet practiced running accounting software so let us assume that you are working it in an MS Excel in one column you are writing assets in the other column you are writing liabilities so on both sides you will record 10,000 system does not know what is liability what is asset what is debtor what is creditor and your both sides will be equal likewise there can be exceptions wherein you make a mistake and balance sheet will be equal and so on so forth all right any other question any other question no
No, sir. Let's move on. Thank you.
okay good let's move on so for today what we planned was interpretation of financial statements now you have got balance sheet and profit loss account in front of you at this stage we want to know how fairly have we done compared to broadly I'll repeat, compared to two, broadly two things. Number one, A or B or one or two, compared to our own previous years, year or years. And secondly, compared to our competitors. If you look at your profit loss account and you want to assess your financial health of a company, you may assess it with respect to others, how good they are doing compared to us, how good or bad we did compared to our previous sessions, or thirdly, within the balance sheet, within same year's financial statements, not comparing with previous year, neither with previous nor with competitors. What is the relationship between various heads of account? How good we are. For example, you have assets worth rupees 100. What will be your liabilities?
So more or less than 100.
So,
More or
So
less, or
cause
100%?
capital must also be there, right?
What will be your liability? Liabilities include your capital also. So your
Okay, then sir, 100.
without a pause, it will be 100 only. Now this 100 may have a combination. What will be the capital and what will be your liability? It can be 10 is to 90, it can be 90 is to 10, isn't it? Suppose your situation is 10 capital and 90 liability. Keep in mind your situation is 10 capital and 90 liability. Someone else's situation is 90 capital and 10 liability. So naturally, who is in a better position?
So the one who has
So
90
the
capital
second
and 10
one.
liability.
One who has 90 capital and 10 liability. Now you recall some of the big size hoarding, very large hoardings at various places, at stations, at the airport, at all popular places, put up by various companies saying that their assets have exceeded so many crores of rupees. कोई LIC हो सकता, कोई इससे पहले सत्यम के बहुत ऐड आया करते थे, और बहुत सी कंपनीज के, कि उनकी assets now are in excess of 1000 crore. तो आम जनता पर क्या इसका असर पड़ता था या पड़ता है? एक कंपनी, इसकी असेट्स, इसके पास कितनी असेट्स हैं? 1000 करोड़.
सर पब्लिक तो भागेगी उसमें ना फिर इन्वेस्ट करने के लिए कि भाई इतने वो हैं, एसेट प्रॉफिटेबल होगी, चलो चलो.
वो नहीं बताते, उन्होंने सिर्फ ये लिखा कि हमारे असेट जो हैं 1 लाख करोड़ हो गए, 50,000 करोड़ हो गए. तो व्हाट आर दे कन्वेइंग? दे आर कन्वेइंग पार्ट ऑफ द इंफॉर्मेशन. अब जो शेयर होल्डर्स नहीं, आम जो पब्लिक है, which is not aware about the concept of assets, liabilities, things like that, they will have an impression कि this is a very good company. पिछले साल तक तो इनकी 500 करोड़ थी assets, अब इनकी assets 1000 करोड़ हो गई. Isn't it? Unless you know what are the liabilities, and within liabilities, how much is your capital and how much is the capital from outside. कितना आपका अपना है, कितना आपका लोगों को देना है. That means we are looking at the figures within the balance sheet. Assets को liabilities से compare कर रहे हैं. Within liabilities also we are comparing what are short term, what are long term. कितनी assets हैं तो कितनी liabilities हैं, कितने हम solvent हैं, कितने insolvent हो सकते हैं. There are several issues which can be answered by looking at various figures of the balance sheet. In the very beginning, I told you that figures speak. Figures speak. How can we understand the language in which they are speaking? If we are comfortable with the language in which they are speaking, we will be able to take a decision. आपने बहुत से डॉक्टर्स को देखा होगा ना कि वो शक्ल देख के बता देते हैं कि भाई क्या बीमारी है, उनको देख के अच्छा हो जाता आदमी. पुराने ज़माने में कुछ हकीम हुआ करते थे जो नब्ज देख के बता दिया करते थे कि भाई क्या बीमारी है कि नहीं. तो अगर कोई अच्छा अकाउंट का एक्सपर्ट है तो बैलेंस शीट को देखते कि कंपनी की फाइनेंशियल हेल्थ के बारे में वो बता सकता है. विदाउट मेकिंग कैलकुलेशंस, आई कैन टेल यू, विदाउट मेकिंग कैलकुलेशंस वो बता सकता है. अकाउंटिंग के और जो एक्सपर्ट रहे हैं, जिन्होंने बहुत रिसर्च की है, वो कुछ कैलकुलेशंस करके ये प्रिडिक्ट कर सकते हैं कि कंपनी कितने साल बाद बैंक करप्ट हो जाएगी. एंड देयर मॉडल्स हैव प्रूव्ड करेक्ट ऑल्सो. If they have predicted, given this scenario, This extrapolation, the company will go bankrupt after 2 years, and company actually has gone into bankruptcy. So, but this will happen only if they can talk to the figures. But if the figures are wrongly compiled, then nobody can do anything. भाई डॉक्टर को आपने मर्ज ही ठीक नहीं बताया तो दवा क्या देगा, गलत दवा देगा आपको. So this is what we shall be doing in the next few classes, that is interpretation of financial statements. How do we interpret financial statements? Before doing so, I have just written something on the first line of this slide. The financial statement that you prepare, that is profit loss account and balance sheet, they suffer from some limitations. They suffer from certain limitations. One of the limitations that I have mentioned as on number one is that they are too technical in nature. They are technical in nature, and the people who are associated with this, the stakeholders or those who use accounting data for taking decision, may not be as competent, as technically sound as they should be for taking the decisions. You want to buy the share of a company. Assume that you have not attended any class so far. आप प्योरली उर्दू के, हिंदी के, फिजिक्स के, इंग्लिश के कहीं के स्टूडेंट हैं. आप डिफरेंशिएट ही नहीं कर सकते कि एसेट क्या होती है, लायबिलिटी क्या होती है. एसेट का मतलब आप समझ लेंगे रुपए हैं, आप समझ लेंगे बिल्डिंग है. आप इसके बियॉन्ड आप जा नहीं पा रहे हैं फिल वक्त. So how will you take a decision? Naturally, the most important document based on which your decision will be there is the balance sheet, which is technically drawn. कहीं रिजर्व लिखा है, कहीं सरप्लस लिखा है, कहीं डिविडेंड इक्वलाइजेशन लिखा है, कहीं कंटिंजेंट लिखा है. अब आपको समझ में नहीं आ रहा कि क्या चीज़ है. तो एज ए स्टेक होल्डर आपको इसकी ज़रूरत है कि आप किसी दूसरी हेल्प से लेकर के इसको समझें. So we need interpretation of financial statement in easy language, which is understood by all the stakeholders. तो दो बहुत ही टेक्निकल हैं इन नेचर. सेकेंड लिमिटेशन क्या है उसकी? सेकेंड लिमिटेशन इज कि यू सी द फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट एज ऑन डेट. प्रॉफिट लॉस अकाउंट पर, बैलेंस शीट पर क्या लिखा होता? प्रॉफिट लॉस अकाउंट ऑफ एबीसी कंपनी ऑन 31 मार्च. ये तो लिखा होता ना 31 मार्च 2021 और 31 मार्च 2020, वॉट एवर. ऑल राइट. So that means whatever has happened from 1st April to 31st March, you have no idea. इस बीच में क्या क्या रहा होगा नहीं बता सकते, isn't it? You should also know what has happened during the entire financial year. Only then you can take a decision whether the company is good or bad. So financial statements only convey the financial health of a company on a particular date. That is on closing day. In between, there can be several transactions. Just let me give you one or two examples. Company had some huge loan payable to, let us say, State Bank. So last year balance sheet, there was a loan. So this time around, it borrowed money from PNB and paid to SBI. The loan still remained, isn't it? But there were transactions. There were less assets in the last year's balance sheet, but this time around there are so many, huge, but it financed it using borrowed money. So one may be impressed by looking at higher amount of asset without looking at the quantum of liability, that there was a jump there. Likewise, there can be several examples which might have happened only during the year for which the accounts were compiled. But because we are looking at the accounts only of a particular date, therefore we are, it is static in nature. We find it difficult to think of it. Although it's not a very good or maybe ethical example, it could be true when the MHA students were here, but still it can be given. Patients who suffer from diabetes, when they go to visit a doctor, maybe in the past 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, they will do a lot of exercise, they will avoid eating everything. I mean, in such a way that they show that sugar is within manageable limit. But there's another test called HbA1c. If that test is conducted, it tells the history of past 3 months. What have been the blood sugar level in the past 3 months? That conveys the real state of affair, and not the day on. Like you do, you prepare well in the, just you try hard to prepare the day you are going to write the examination. And the past 1 week and 10 days or 3 months and all, you have been as casual as you wanted to be. So this is what the as on date word conveys. Another limitation of the financial statements is that they are static in nature. And they are not ever changing. So because of these limitations, we need to address these limitations, and these limitations can be addressed by analyzing the financial statements by using various techniques. The techniques we shall be using are given below. Before that, one more aspect we need to discuss is about the rationale. Rationale to discuss is that accounting figures convey you an absolute figure. Convey an absolute figure. Unless we have relative figures also in front of us, we cannot decide about the financial health of a company. Let me just give you one example. If I ask somebody from your class has obtained, his or her marks of at the end of first semester, the marks he or she obtained, the total marks obtained are 700. One of you has obtained 700 marks in your first semester. Can you conclude that he did well?
No, sir, unless we
No,
know
sir.
from how much marks.
Yes, unless we know what are the maximum marks.
Yes, sir.
Suppose I say it is 1000. Then you can say he has obtained 70%. Then only you can compare with marks of his other batchmates. Someone has obtained 770, someone 650, someone 930, someone 250. Then only you can convert them into percentage and then decide who did better than the others. Okay. Extending the same argument, if I say that the profit of a company is 1 crore, has it done good?
So in this case, we will have to figure out the previous profit and loss statements, and then only we can say that whether the
Okay,
company is in
previous year
profit or not.
में, okay, previous year में it was 50 lakh.
So we
Did
can say
well?
that it is in a profit.
Say
जी, और कोई बताइए?
say depend on how big enterprise it is.
Okay, how big enterprise is, then there are
Then we
more
will
than a
decide
dozen
how many
figures.
capital it has
Good, good.
invested,
Yeah, okay, there
how
are
many
more,
liabilities
good,
it
good,
have.
good. There are more than a dozen figures which, if put together, only then we will be in a position to make a definite comment the company did well or it did not. Likewise, there are several other issues which will be part of our discussion when we go on to analyzing financial statements. So it was the rationale of explaining. Okay. Now, what are the techniques? These are the 5 ones we shall be concentrating on. First 3 are very, very simple, just very simple. In half an hour, maybe lesser than that, can be completed. We will be spending more time on serial number 4 and 5. Fourth and fifth do require a lot of discussion and conceptual understanding. And up to third, they are simple. In case of first one, common size statement, we will convert everything into one common denominator or one common base. Either percentage or something else of that sort, and then we will compare with our own previous records or with others, etc., etc. We can have comparative statements again by first converting them to a common figure, and then we may analyze. I'll explain to you in details what is to be done with respect to each. Then we may have a trend, a percentage kind of thing. We may have a data of 5 years, 6 years, 10 years over a long period of time, and then we can see in which direction or what is the trend. Then we can have the ratios. We can calculate ratios. A versus B or B versus C, or A is to B, B is to C. What is A, what is B? Both figures have to be relevant to each other. For example, you are looking at a figure of advertisement. With what figure should this be compared?
So it can be compared with the figures of expenses to a certain how much expenses were went into advertisement. It can
Any
also
other?
be
Okay.
compared
Any
to
other? Okay.
revenue
Okay. Okay.
for the same.
Any other figure which is more relevant than what you have said?
So
So
revenue.
sales.
Sales. True. Sales. If you see advertisement of the past 5 years, expenses incurred on advertisement in the past 5 years, and it expenses incurred on this one, and then sales figures. What should be the trend?
Sir, ideally, as the advertisement expense increases, the sales should dramatically increase too.
Ideally, this happen. If it is not,
So
then
then we
your
are wasting money on advertisement.
then your advertisement is not effective. You need to make out certain things. You need to change certain things before you can finally arrive at your conclusion. All right. Likewise, suppose you compare advertisement with purchases. It will give you a ratio, but will that ratio be of any use?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Right. So what all we have to do under all these 5 or maybe more if time permits, that we have to compare 2 or more than 2 figures in such a way that they are relevant. The comparison is relevant. Again, mathematically, you may be correct if you calculate a ratio of advertisement and the insurance policy that you have purchased. 1,000 rupees is spent on advertisement and 5,000 rupees on buying a life insurance policy. The ratio is 1:5. You are spending 5 times on insurance, 5 times of advertisement you are paying for the insurance, or you are spending 1/5 on advertisement, 1/5 of insurance on advertisement. Mathematically, these are all correct figures, but they do not convey any meaning to us. User cannot take any decision based on this information. So rationale I have explained to you, and the way we shall proceed has also been explained to you. Now you open, once this introduction is clear, you open page number 75 of your notes. You have opened?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Good. Just 1 second. Okay, you have opened it. 75. It is written illustration 1. Okay, there are 2 companies, A and B. If you look at just B, for example, first figure of, not first figure, just let me see. Last, come to the credit side, look at the cost of production. What is for B?
So 13,20,000.
What is for A?
7,70,000.
Which one is doing good?
So cost of production say for A. So
Because
because their cost is less than B.
okay, without looking at any data, just don't look at any data. Just look at the statement which Anam has made. Do you agree with her?
Sir, if we
No,
don't
sir.
look at profit, then yes, it looks good कि हाँ भाई कम cost आ रहा है उनको.
Moreover, what you said, Anam, that because cost of production is less, your cost of production will be less if you produce less, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
एक
Yes.
यूनिट बनाने में 1,000 रुपए लगता है, 10 यूनिट बनाने में 10,000. हम तो एक यूनिट बनाएंगे ताकि 1,000 लगे, isn't it? That means cost of production per se, stand alone, has no meaning. All right.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Come to the profitability figures. Last in the credit side. Time है triangulated. नहीं, 1 मिनट late. अभी बस 2 मिनट. Look at the last figure, because I am to leave soon after the class is over, so I'm trying to pack up. What is the last figure on the credit side?
So gross profit.
Gross.
No,
Brought
I'm
down.
saying last figure. Gross profit, correct.
Yes, sir.
It is 2 lakh and then 1 lakh.
1 lakh for A Limited, yeah.
Which company has done better?
So B. Yes, sir.
B. Now come to the net profit. Which company has done better?
So B.
B.
What is the percentage of B? Percent profit.
Sir, combining both, it will be 70%.
Combining both means what?
Sir, if we take profits of net profit of A and net profit of B,
Why
it
should you
sums
combine
up
it?
to be 2 lakhs.
अरे भाई इसको क्यों कंबाइन करेंगे? दोनों अलग अलग कंपनीज हैं।
सर आपने परसेंटेज पूछा, इस हिसाब से
हर एक की अलग अलग निकलेगी ना।
Sir, 10% profit as compared to sales.
अच्छा ठीक है, और आपको एक ओवरऑल बेसिस पर कौन कंपनी बेटर लग रही है?
सर कंपनी भी बहुत बेटर लग रही है, उसका नेट प्रॉफिट और ग्रोस प्रॉफिट दोनों 100% ज्यादा है उससे, कंपनी ए से।
बस यही रुक जाइए। एक कंपनी का प्रॉफिट 100 रुपए है, दूसरी कंपनी का 200 रुपए है, तो पहली बेटर है दूसरी बेटर है?
So दूसरी बेटर है।
दूसरी बेटर है, ठीक है। इन्हीं कंपनी, रुक जाए, इन्हीं कंपनी में पहली कंपनी की सेल्स।
सर
हाँ
सर, ए कंपनी ने 9 लाख रुपीस लगा के 1 लाख का प्रॉफिट किया और बी कंपनी ने 16 लाख लगा के 2 लाख का प्रॉफिट किया है। तो ए ने कम इन्वेस्ट करके प्रॉफिट।
जी बिल्कुल ये देखिए क्या हुआ, फिगर्स हैव स्पोकन टू हिम। किसने, कौन बात कर रहा है ये?
सर जीशान।
देर आए दुरुस्त आए। देखो ये बिल्कुल सही इन्होंने कहा कि एक कंपनी ने इतना इन्वेस्ट करके इतना प्रॉफिट कमाया। एक वो जो मैं आपसे कह रहा था, पहली कंपनी दूसरी कंपनी। तो अब ये क्या है कि फिगर्स हैव स्पोकन टू यू। यू मे मेक not one but a dozen observation about these. अच्छा ठीक, तो I'll be leaving the class now because I need to as I had to leave today. I am leaving immediately, so maybe I'll compensate these 3 minutes sometimes later. Now I owe you 3 minutes. We will make up it sometimes later. So then all of you have mentioned your cumulative attendance, and I will pass on to others. I will pass on to others who did not attend the class to do it later. And right now, just I leave you here. Okay.
Thank you so much, sir.
Sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Assalamualaikum, sir. Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz. Thank you so much. My pleasure. Thank